Hey, what is up? What is good? This is Adjust the Ranks. I'm Jeremy Schulman at Adjust the Ranks at FF_Rebel on Twitter. This, of course, is Jesse Moeller at JMoeller05. I don't even have a microphone plugged in. We're trying to do a
What?
live. Jesse,
What is
what's
going on?
how you doing, my man?
I'm doing good. We are sorting through a bunch of things. Got a bunch of things in the works. All sorts of chaos going on. And for those of you that do Dynasty content or off-season content, like you know what's going on, so I don't need to like spill it out for y'all. But yeah, a lot of stuff hasn't changed. A lot of balls in the air. I'm excited to get into these rookies and Dynasty and see where we end up drafting them because it's very interesting because we got what 4 months till happen. So I'm excited to see for my own self and for how the market views them.
Yeah, man, we are getting into it, and hopefully my voice sounds silky smooth at this point. We are getting into it today. We are doing a 10-man Superflex Dynasty startup draft. We are including the rookies in the draft, the actual rookies, not rookie picks. So it's something to consider about very, very early on where we think some of these rookies go. And we're just doing 12 rounds. So we're only filling out a couple of bench spots. We'll see where we think they belong and how they fall. But Jesse, I think you said a couple of weeks ago when we were doing this, we were talking a little bit about Ashton Genty and where he might potentially go back a first round, which is where you are sitting at the 110. Maybe a little too early, maybe just right. So I guess we'll have to see where you go there.
Yeah, it's going to be, that's a bit early because, like, I mean, we talked about him being the RB1 in Dynasty. As soon as the moment he gets drafted, I think it's situation dependent with him where he ends up. But, like, he's going to be a first-round pick, right? So it takes away that. But you're basically contemplating if you want that running back, it's him, it's Gibbs, it's Bijan. They're all kind of in that similar mindset. I will say the 101's like late second right now, which is like a super steal if people are drafting based on that. So that's going to rise. That's going to significantly rise get closer to the season. So we'll see how it goes. But stay tuned. We could be drafting Mr. Genty here in a little bit.
We will see. We will see. So we'll include the rookies. We'll talk a little bit about it, and we'll just sort through it. We have a 60-second clock. There is no tight end premium. This is just a straight PPR draft with the startup. So as I try and get out this show so that we can actually get some more viewers in here, it's all good. We're on YouTube at Adjust the Ranks as well, posting content on TikTok, so feel free to join there. And of course, Jesse and I over at the Fantasy Football Universe, we're over there, putting out tons of content, so please feel free to drop by. Let's see if we can sort it out. So here is our big board. I'm going to start it up in just a second. If I can get my ducks in a row. Technology. What the hell are we doing here? I don't know. But all right. So let's do it. Again, if you're just joining us, we are Superflex, 10-team Dynasty mock draft with rookies included. And let's fire it up. So we did this about 2 weeks ago, Jesse. And we had the quarterbacks go pretty quickly here. You see Josh Allen going 101. My 102 is Lamar Jackson. Are you of the same mind, or is there anyone else you would consider here?
Yeah, I'd actually take Lamar 101. But I don't. You can make the case for Hurts, or if you want to go one of these elite wide receivers or difference makers at a different position. I know Bauer's going to come into contention here rather quickly for people. But yeah, in Superflex, you want to lock up the quarterback. So having the option of Lamar or Hurts or Burrow or any one of those guys, like it's really hard to pass those guys up.
Yeah. And here you see at Superflex, we have 2 running back and wide receiver slots. We have 2 flex slots and then a couple of bench spots. But yeah, I'm going to have to go Lamar Jackson here. He is not my 101, but he's my far and away 102. I cannot take him over Josh Allen, but Lamar Jackson is going to be my pick. Joe Burrow is actually my 103, but I think he's got a couple of picks before he probably goes off the board. We'll see what the rest of these guys do here. What are you thinking at 103?
103, like if I'm taking quarterback, I'm either going to go Burrow or Hurts. I'm not going to do Stroud. You could talk about Mahomes if you believe that, because like towards the end of the season, they kind of shifted where he was scoring more points per game, looking like the guy we wanted. And he's freaking Patrick Mahomes. All he has to do is have like a nice playoff run here, and people are going to be like, oh, he's back, right? Because we have that connection to him. So I think he's as insulated as you can get. Oh, yeah. By the way, I completely forgot about Jane Daniels. I would take Jane Daniels 101. So Yeah, I just forgot he existed. So that's where my head's at. You could tell I'm all over the place right now because I was like, wait, yeah, I don't know where he was in the ranks, but he was way too far down. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's my mistake. Yeah, that's
the ADP
yeah.
sucks, but yeah, talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, he's incredible. He did everything you could have wanted. He was a top 6 quarterback as a rookie. He gives you the rushing upside. You look at what he does, like 148 rushing attempts, 800 plus yards on the ground. He was the Washington offense, right? And oh, by the way, we have an S ton of money for free agency to add to that wide receiver room, change the running back room with all the pieces, build the offensive line. Like it's wheels up for Jaden Daniels. So yeah, if you could talk about him one-on-one. I don't think anywhere's too early, honestly, because he's the youngest of the group. What is he, like 20? He's 24. All the other guys are a little bit older, so will be, so I think it's a very good pick. I like that.
Yep, totally agree there. He is my 104, but yeah, we saw somebody take him 101 in our latest Dynasty startup just a few weeks ago. Hard to fault it because of the age. You have at 104 Pat Mahomes, then Burrow at 105, Hurts at 106. That makes a ton of sense. In fact, if we're looking at quarterback after that, you got Herbert, which is probably my 107. You got Jordan Love. You've got the rookies like Caleb, Drake May, Bo Nix hanging around there. But I think that's probably the right spot to pivot to wide receiver. Jamar Chase, absolutely. Justin Jefferson, he's fantastic, Jesse. Is he still the wide receiver 2 in Dynasty for you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care who you put it to. Like, there's a few guys, and there's a guy I'll be talking about here in a second who's a little bit lower than him, but I think he's in the same tier. He's just incredible, and it was disappointing because he put up 19 points per game, just a solid 1,500 yards. Like, I think with Jefferson, there's only it only goes up from here. Like, that feels kind of like the floor almost for Jefferson, what we just saw this last season, because he's that special of a talent. So, wow, that's really early for Genty ahead of these. Like, this is the thing, right? With the rookies,
it's gonna happen.
Talk about it.
It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. Somebody, because you're gonna be wanting to take him. If you're taking him over Bijan and Gibbs, it's a serious discussion. But we're these wide receivers here, and I will say, because we're in 10 team, I'm more willing to move off a quarterback earlier because I want the true difference makers at the position. So I'm looking at guys like Puka. I'm looking at guys like CD Lamb that are just chilling there. Oh yeah, Malik Neighbors, by the way, who is really young. He's freaking 21, right? And Puka's not old. CD Lamb's getting in that age thing where it's, a little bit up there. Yeah. And then, it talks about Bowers, who's also super young. So there's a ton of ways I can go with this build. I'm definitely going to take Puka because I'm over the moon, head over heels with Puka.
Yeah.
And then it just depends if I want to go CD Lamb or Malik Neighbors. I don't really see a difference between the two of them. What I'm going to do is, because we saw Neighbors basically have an incredible season with nothing at quarterback position, if that changes for the Giants, I think there's a serious upside case for Malik Neighbors where he could skyrocket in value, where he's pushing into alongside Jamar Chase. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think you could do that. The fact it's only start 2 wide receivers will probably having me want to grab Gibbs or Bijan, but just grabbing those truly elite difference makers at the position. So you go Bowers, you go Neighbors, you go Lamb, you go Gibbs, any one of those guys. Really fun. I was to ask you, if you're taking a quarterback, who would you take at this spot? Because there's a lot of solid names, but no one really stands out to me of this group.
Yeah, it's Herbert or Caleb. It really depends what I'm looking for. As my QB1, I think I prefer Caleb, especially with Ben Johnson, but and the age. But yeah, Justin Herbert, I don't think you can go wrong. He actually crushed it for you this year. And Malik Neighbors, I think that's a great pick as well. Juicy J obviously set his Q. Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers. What are you thinking about that?
That's just you're just playing with house money at that point, because you have Bowers, who is just everything you'd ask for. Genty's the riskier pick, so that one I like because we have Bijan, we have Gibbs, we know their situation is they're reaching that prime age where Genty's maybe a year or two away from that, right? So I would go with those guys just because you don't know how it's going to go. But I mean, he's super insulated. He doesn't have to be that good as a rookie, right? He's going to hold his value. So I get it. You can't really complain about taking this early. It's just in 10 team, I'm more willing to move off quarterback earlier than I would in a deeper league, because quarterbacks, there's more quarterbacks available. So you could push this a little bit later, and that's kind of why I want to push quarterback, because I want to see who comes back on the turn. If I get a Kyler in round 4, I'm not going to be worried about that. Or you push it, and you get somebody like Bryce Young way later in the draft. You know what I'm saying? I think there's ways to make quarterback work in 10 team. I want the truly elite players, so if I can get those skill guys, I'm gonna grab them.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, and I feel like I took quarterback a little bit too early. But here with Caleb Williams still on the board, if he makes it down to me, I'll be really tempted. I would actually be surprised if Spencer, if he gets to him. Didn't go Daniels, Caleb Williams. I kind of love that in a
Running back,
startup
baby.
draft. That's fantastic. But of course, Marvin Harrison's still out there. Drake London is another interesting one. So there's some good wide receiver value, but Trey McBride is a guy I'm considering here.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we have Brees Hall. What are you thinking about Brees Hall versus Devon Achane? And where are you willing to take them after their respective seasons here on the board?
I think it's fine. Like we did this mock a couple weeks ago. I took Bucky in this range just because I really wanted Bucky. But I think the running backs, it's hard to separate them, right? Like Brees, you got Jonathan Taylor, who's another guy in that range. We have Kyra, who's consistent. Achane does this thing. I don't think anyone's really going to separate themselves from the group. So I would kind of just see who falls on the backside of that after you and grab a running back if you're going to go with that. So I would go to the other position if that's wide receiver, quarterback, or tight end, and then kind of come back if you want one of those guys. I think one of them is going to be available.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm tempted here to take tight end and go with Trey McBride, but I'm not going to do that because this is not a premium, and I'm going to get the guy that I can't quit anymore, Jesse, and it's all your fault and SC's fault. It's Brian Thomas Jr., absolute stud. Who is their coach now? It's Cohen, right? So Cohen's over there in Jacksonville.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think Trevor Lawrence has a chance,
Yeah, I love Brian Thomas Jr. and he's in the discussion of the 1-2 turn where I was at. I think Neighbors just a little bit safer, but I think the upside shot is Brian Thomas, because he has Lawrence, he's got the good OC and head coach there, right? It's all kind of in place for him to take another step further if Trevor Lawrence can progress and be that guy we wanted. You could be talking about Brian Thomas putting up 1,500 yards, 10 touchdowns, no problem next year. That seems well within the range of outcomes. You get that, you're just loving life. Yeah, he's a special player, and I would be thrilled to get him on the back in a second.
Yeah, for sure. Although I can't fault Nico Collins or even the shot on Marvin Harrison. I feel like it's a little early for Marv personally, but I think the talent is there. I don't think it was necessarily his fault what happened. He needs to improve, but he was a rookie. I'll give him, a little bit of a break there. So we have Amon-Ra, of course, that's where he belongs, maybe even a little bit further up the board. But at the 206, that's great value. You got Josh Allen and Justin Herbert for Pete Serio, and he's at the 301 here. If you're starting two quarterbacks in a 10-man, you got to love this start. But who are you taking here? Are you looking for tight end, wide receiver? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I would basically I would tier out these positions, see what's available. Tight end is very narrow. There's a handful of guys you like. Garrett Wilson, you could make the case, but that's freaking risky with what's going on in that position. You don't know how it's going to go, right? It could be another disappointing season. So I wouldn't take Garrett Wilson. He's close to I think Drake London's safer. You can do the Rumble Dudes. I would take the difference-making running back if you wanted it because Brees Hall's staring you right in the face. Seems really safe to do that, right? Or HM. Because these wide receivers, you can kind of make a case for a lot of these guys. And then we get into the rookies with Ted McMillan's going to come in here, and my guy, Travis Hunter, who I will be drafting at some point because I'm significantly above consensus on Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could talk into those guys. So I'm curious, where are you thinking right now? Where are you leading at this spot?
I'm stealing your guys here, Jesse, in this draft. Brian Thomas Jr. and Trey McBride. I just have to get that difference-making tight end. Yeah. I really like Laporta as my tight end 3 or even a tight end 4, just because of the youth. But the offense is changing. There's a significant tier break after these two guys. So unless I'm waiting on tight end and picking a guy who's significantly older, I want one of these two top guys at the 302. I'll take Trey McBride.
100%. It makes so much sense. He was everything you could have asked for this year. Only thing he didn't get is touchdowns. So if we get touchdowns, all of a sudden you're talking about serious. Because I know we talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. being disappointing. He was not disappointing. He was everything you could have asked for. So I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is more of a projection pick. McBride, you're getting the difference-making tight ends. And there was not that many last year. So, yeah, you lock it in. Now you don't have to worry about it, right? You're set. Unless you want to, go flex tight ends later. You just have fun with it.
Yeah, maybe. But, without a tight end premium, I think we're probably going to see a couple of rounds before we see some of these other guys go. Maybe Laporta in the 4th. But outside of that, who else are you taking? Andrews, Hawkinson, Kittle, you're probably taking those guys in the 5th, 6th, 7th round in non-tight end premium, right?
Yeah, like it's because this is non-tight end premium, right? So it's not we're not
Yeah.
forcing up the tight end, so they're gonna fall a little bit more. Yeah, I think this point in tight end, I'm just gonna wait. Like I don't really want to reach for any of these guys. Like I think the best way to play it is if you're a contender, just wait for George Kittle to fall to like the 5th or 6th and take the guy
Yep.
who's the biggest difference maker from last year. Because everyone's head over heels on Bauer, but George Kittle was the tight end one last year. Like he was the tight end one
Yep.
punch per game. He did everything you could ask for because he's that special player. So instead of taking Bowers round 2, say you take Kittle round 6, like that sounds a hell of a lot nicer to me. So if you can push it back and still get the value, I'm all aboard that. I really like the Lab McConkey pick, like at the 3-4 spot. I think that's a really good spot for him. So locking in that young insulation wide receiver producer, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Let's talk a little bit about rookies and where you feel they land. You mentioned Tet McMillan. Sorry, we have Omarion Hampton, Luther Burden, Egbuka, Ty Warren, and obviously the quarterbacks here. What are you thinking in terms of who's probably the next rookie off the board, and is it going to be you who takes him?
Well, both Drake and Caleb just went, so that really kind of shifts how I'm viewing quarterback. Like there's a lot of guys in this range. But yeah, to go with rookies, like for sure, Tet's gonna be the guy that everybody's gonna jump to. I have freaking Travis Hunter as my 102. So if I was going to take one, I would take Travis Hunter. I know it's risky. I'm not saying everyone should do this, but I think he's going to play wide receiver. The thing is, I already took 2 difference making wide receivers. So unless I'm just trying to build out just young value plays, like I don't need to take that player. Like I could go other spots, right? It gets interesting though, because this running back class is so draft dependent with like upwards like 10 guys going that early. We don't know how it's going to shake out. So I don't really want to take a rookie running back until I get later in the draft, right? Like with all these players here, like you could get Bruce Hall, you could go that, you could get you could go Kyron, you could go Saquon Barkley if you want the difference maker, right? You could do that. So I don't want to force those rookies up right now. But I'm looking at quarterback and it's kind of just feels incredibly flat. Like Richardson's hella risky. Kyler's been disappointing. There's guys down here like JJ, but I really don't want to force JJ that early. So what I'm going to do is you could do all of that, right? Like you could do that. All right, let me just grab. I'm blanking on where is he? I'll just take freaking Brees, whatever. It's fine. We'll just take Brees there, lock up there. Yeah, like I was kind of in between, and because I was talking so much, I kind of like lost my spot of where I wanted to go. So we'll see. Now it depends if I want to go rookie, because you could do the rookie and you could lock in the guy I want to get, but I'm gonna wait for him to fall because it makes more sense. So either go quarterback or tight end, but like to your point, I don't love any of these tight ends. So I would just rather get a quarterback here and not have to worry about it later. So with the change for Stroud, I think there is a way for him to gain value. And I think he could significantly gain value if he shows that production. Kyler's the most interesting because he's 27, right? And he's been just kind of all over the place. You look at his points per game, like it's just been okay. He's been up and down. So really need to make a step forward. I think Lawrence is a good pick here. I mean, obviously you love Baker. So if you want to go Baker, the production there. Also, there's Bo Nix, and I don't know why everyone hates Bo Nix because he's young and productive. So I'll take Kyler here just because I'm a Kyler guy, but I do not feel great about it. Because it almost feels like I'm forcing to pick a quarterback, even though I'm not super excited, right? Because we got to fill out these quarterbacks at some point because I don't want to get lost. So that's kind of just like a default move in this draft without like, really diving into it.
Yeah, I dig it. I think Kyler's pretty safe in terms of his production on the floor, like you mentioned. The thing about Kyler is how safe is his job. If he can't win games, I think he probably, let's say Arizona somehow, I don't know, they have some other option, which they haven't had since Kyler's been in the building, but maybe they have some other legitimate option, like a Marcus Mariota or some kind of garbage guy who can just come in and like do something. Right. Like at least hold on to the football, I guess. Maybe let's say they worst case scenario, they bench Kyler Murray and, then they move on. I think Kyler gets another shot somewhere because he's certainly a functional quarterback. He's hyper mobile, obviously. And I think as long as he's on the field, this is the Justin Fields, Anthony Richardson corollary. Like these guys produce fantasy points, even as bad as Kyler's been. Like you said, he's still putting up 18, 19, 20 points a game. He's great for fantasy, not so great for the NFL.
That's the thing, right? So you kind of have to figure out how that's going to work. His contract, there's a massive dead cap hit this year, like $63 million. In 2026, it dropped down to 20 million. So the dead cap, like I think they could work off of it going into 2026. But like that's the thing. If Kyler has an improved season, looks kind of like we've seen in the past, then all of a sudden it's like, why would they do that, right? Because they're tied to him for the next 3 years if they want to do that. They have an opt out in 2028 for basically no dead cap. So they could run it the next when he's 30, call it, which makes the most sense. So I don't know. Where you're at with one quarterback and you kind of have one of the few positions. Are you thinking you want to get your first running back, or do you want to lock in your QB2, maybe go wide receiver? Where are you kind of at in the spot?
I have designs on running back, but there's still a few guys like Derrick Henry is still hanging around. Joe Mixon is still hanging around. I think those guys have one more season of, or at least half a season of elite production. So I'm going to go ahead and go to wide receiver once again. I love my young wide receivers. And Jesse, just going to keep taking your guys, Jesse. There's a few names in here who are very interesting, but I can't quit JSN. He's my guy. He's my wide receiver 10 in Dynasty, so I'm getting a supreme value on him. Is he the 1A? I don't know. I don't care. But if they can kind of patchwork that offensive line together, I think he can have a much better season alongside DK, who can have a much better season. They can figure out what the hell they're doing on offense.
Right. And I live in Seattle, so I hear this constantly. There's talk of potentially trading DK Metcalf. And if that happens, by the way, they're going to have nobody else in that wide receiver room because Tyler Lockett's a $20 million cap hit they can cut and save money. So this would be the JSN offense. We'll see with the new OC, whoever it is they end up picking, how that's going to implement JSN. But yeah, like he feels like a much cheaper version of Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like you're getting kind of the same type of player in that mindset. He's more explosive, but like he can give you that. So like if he takes another step forward, he can push closer to that, and you're getting him in the 4th round. Like, yeah, I think that's a really good value.
Yeah. Yep. I love that value. And I'm going to see what happens here on the turn, because if 2 wide receivers go, we'll figure it out. I'll talk about it in a minute, I guess. Let's recap the 4th round. So you started with Kyler, then CJ Stroud. What is that? QB 10. I think that's decent value. You got Saquon, Rome, AJ Brown, Jonathan Taylor. I mean, AJ Brown, I love that he goes there. Also, Ryan is a Philly fan, but he has the Hurts Brown stack, so I do not mind that at all, especially at those values. Those are nice. Jonathan Taylor, Kyron Williams, then Brock Purdy, down year. Chris Olave was going to be my pick, so I was sniped on that. 2 for 2 on snipes. Oh, me? Well, that's what he said in the chat. 2 for 2 on snipes of him. P. Serio, well, P. Serio, don't worry about it. You just sniped me with Chris Olave. So I'm probably going to pivot. I cannot get, oh yeah, here we go. I got my guy. I'm really considering Terry McLaurin here. It feels a little early, does not feel too early for Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice, when healthy, is going to be an absolute stud. I mean, look, we still got Ted McMillan on the board. He's probably right around it. He's going to go earlier. He's going to go earlier than this. Yes, but if you look at the talent level of these guys, I mean, Ted McMillan is probably going to slot in right amongst them. Like where, oh, sorry. So he's already gone at the 309. That's my fault. Ted is already gone. That's fine. But he's probably more so going to end up one of these 4th, 5th round guys when it's all said and done. But, rookie hype.
Yes, 100%. Like that's like, I was surprised. I was like, I didn't think he was still available. If he was, I'd say that's insane value just because top 10 rookie wide receivers, do they have that name cachet? Like, you could sell them, and there goes Travis Hunter. F you, Spence. We're no longer friends. We're fighting. But yeah, so like the way that these rookies are insulated, particularly with Travis Hunter having the draft capital he's going to have, if he gets, like, if he's the offensive player, which people think he's going to be, like, it's just they don't even have to produce that much. Like, they hold name cachet. Like, even we talk about Romo Dunze, right? Like, he did not have a great season. He's still going. Look where Marvin Harrison Jr. is going, and his season was incredibly disappointing by everyone's standards, right? That's how it goes. Where if you take the old guy, you have to get the production. Like there's no other way around it, right? Because they will drop off in value. Like Terry McLaurin you're talking about. If he doesn't live up to expectations, falls off a cliff, like then the value plummets. So that's as long as you're okay with that and building an older team, like then yeah, it's totally fine. Like just know what you're building. So if you want the insulation, because we don't have games for 8 months, like we got a long time of games here to figure it out. So the rookies will only gain value from this point moving forward because we're in the range of the draft. We're pushing in 5th, like these rookie running backs. a couple of them potential late run, like early round 2 picks. If they get that, they're going to skyrocket value, right? Because they're so
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
Agree with you. If I'm going to ask about your team, but just looking at my team, I think if things fall the way that I hope they do, I'm probably
Mhm.
looking at QB2 and my first running back here in the
Yeah.
6th and 7th. What are you thinking with your next 2 picks if things fall the right way? What are you hoping to pick up position wise?
Yeah, it's all about who falls in this range because the running backs, it's either you have these like old producers, like you got the Josh Jacobs, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, they all start to come into consideration. Joe Mixon, even though that offense is shifting, or you go with the young running backs, right? Like we talk about with these rookies. Maybe you're a big Travion Henderson fan. Maybe you're a Ryan Hampton. Everyone seems to love him. You take these guys because you know they have really good profiles coming out, and you think it's going to be safe for them. If you want to do that, Chase Brown, a really good running back, but there's a lot of risk with him, right? With how that situation could play out. And there goes Baker. So it just depends how this board falls in the next couple of picks. I think it's really safe to go after the quarterback 2 here, which I will probably end up doing. And then I'll pivot with either we can do it with like Burden or Igbuka, the rookie wide receivers or the rookie running backs, or, lock in my tight end. But I don't think, Bucky.
I was just going to mention Bucky because I know he was falling down the ranks. I was actually going to bring him up to you. Would you have considered Bucky there? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I would take him. Where I took him in the last draft, so I definitely would take him Bucky like a lot earlier. So when I was taking Brees, I missed Bucky, and that's who I was looking for. I didn't see him, so I was kind of panicking and drafting. I was like, well, let's take Brees, whatever. It's fine. It's a mock draft, right? Yeah, I'm fine taking Bucky anywhere in like the late 2nd, early 3rd. Like that's fine with me, just because I don't think they're going to replace him. Obviously, it's a new OC, but his metrics and everything were so fantastic. Like it's really hard to expect them to be like, you know what, this guy, we're going to replace him because you have that guy who's incredibly talented. So I don't think why you would do that.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Yeah, the problem is Chase Brown and Bucky Irving are just buried in these ranks. They're going to go ahead of most of these guys.
Yes.
Certainly Kenneth Walker because of his down season, possibly Kyron, definitely Jonathan Taylor. But Bucky and Chase are my 6 and 7. Mix and match them however you want. But yeah, I don't mind it at all. So you see the 5th round, Jesse, as you're deciding who to pick. Started with Olave, then Rashi Rice, Travis Hunter, Jordan Addison, a bunch of youth at wide receiver. Then we have the stud running backs tier 3/4, Kenneth Walker, but of course Chase Brown and Bucky Irving, Baker and Bo Nix. And Jesse, you're on the clock with 30 seconds left and back-to-back picks. What are you going to do?
So the Bo Nix pick's really good value. I'm taking him there. I'm also going to go youth. I'm going to go JJ McCarthy here. I don't want to do the Anthony Richardson experience. Like I don't, because that insulation's gone from him. Like if he just starts losing the job, like it's just gone. Like there's no value into him at that point. So with JJ, he hasn't played, so he has that. And his situation and everything is so fantastic. Obviously, I don't expect them to like make Sam Darnold the starting quarterback moving forward, but I just think JJ McCarthy was such a talented prospect and everything about him. Like you just deal with the injury and you move on. So it's kind of the injury discount. But yeah, like either one of those guys, Nix or McCarthy, are really good value in this range if you get them. So I like them a lot. And then like I really should just take a rookie here because they're so insulated. So I could go Cam Ward, who's potentially the QB1. I just don't trust these rookie quarterbacks. Like I don't know how they're going to go, how it's going to shake out with them. So then it gets in, do I want to go for the rookie running back? Do I want to do that? I could take freaking Burden. I think he's good. I like Ejukba more. I think he's a better player. I think he's safer. I'm trying to find so the weird thing is Travion Henderson's absolutely buried. He's at 25, 16, and I don't know. Okay. He's super buried. I had to search for him. Couldn't find him. So I'm going to take him and lock him up. Just because I think he's the best of the bunch. I know a lot of people like Hampton, but I think Henderson's the best running back out of all of the running backs available. So I'll take him and see what. And if it could backfire on me. Obviously, it could hurt because there's a lot of good running back producers that are available right now. So
yeah, no, I love that. I got to talk about Juicy J though because he was in and out, so he is taking care of his team, and monitoring it. CJ Stroud, Bo Nix, Michael Penix. What are you thinking about that?
I wonder, with Stroud and Penix, you wonder the production upside. It's not necessarily the value upside because Stroud already had people talking about QB1 last year. It could come back again. I just think when you're taking these non-mobile quarterbacks, and that's probably why he mixed in Nix because he's a mobile quarterback. It's just really hard for them to hit that ceiling, right? So that's just my concern with them. But yeah, Stroud has value insulation. Penix is the wild card. Like he could go anywhere, particularly because Trevor Lawrence was right there. Like you know what you're getting. There's Jared Goff. We have Bryce Young. You want to go for that? Like there's plenty of quarterbacks in this range, but it's gonna start drying up. So like I think someone's gonna get Dak Prescott at a really good value is how it's going to shake out because people don't want to touch him. So yeah, I think if you don't push it up, you want to wait, go for it.
Yeah, I'm looking at the board. Anthony Richardson starting to be a value, but will he hold on to the job? I don't know. The guy I'm looking at is Bryce Young. We're at QB, I think 17 at this point. So between Dak, Goff, and Bryce Young, I think those are great values there. You can have them for a couple of years. You also have guys like Geno and Derek Carr who are not terrible values, and of course Sam Darnold, who are not terrible values. All of those guys are going to start next year, barring some sort of crazy injury, I'd say. So I think they're good values too. But because P. Serio has 2 quarterbacks, I am going to push QB. And I am looking at, damn it, Jesse. I've got a Jesse team going on here. There's one guy who's buried in the ranks for no good reason, Jesse. It is James Cook. What are you doing, James Cook? Yeah, he needs to be going but ahead of Christian McCaffrey, and probably ahead of Kenneth Walker at this point. I think he's probably around too late here.
Yeah, I think kind of because if you want the production, just take Jacobs. You know what you're getting. Like he was really good. He's gonna be really good. He's gonna need all that. Like he has that contract. But yeah, if you want a little bit of value in Station Cook, he's a little bit younger, right? And he's productive. And there's upside because he still is only playing 50% of the snaps last week, right? So for this season. Like he was not full-time player. So if he takes on more in this upcoming year, which is entirely possible with Buffalo because they got Josh Allen, but at some point they're gonna stop running that dude into the ground. I get it. He looks like a buffalo. He plays like a buffalo. Like he is legit a human buffalo. Like you don't want to tackle that man. But at some point they got to move off of it. So I think with Cook, you just have a really good player and a really good team. But yeah, I mean, I like all these guys you're drafting. So hell yeah, this is a Jesse team for sure.
With James Cook, I don't mind him above the rookie backs. Like you said, we don't know what we're going to get, but absolutely, if I were to go a second running back here, I would probably look to the rookies. I would look at Judkins, I would look at Hampton, and I would definitely look over at Caleb Johnson. Those 3, I think, are awesome values here. And they're certainly going to skyrocket up the board. But I need a quarterback, Jesse, and I can't take Cam Ward over Bryce Young with what he showed the back half of the year. He's got Dave Canales. Dave Canales whispers to quarterbacks. I don't know how he does it. He continues to do it. This is a trend now. 3 straight guys. And with a full offseason, that continuity for Bryce Young for a young quarterback we know is good. We have to assume they're going to bring in a good wide receiver at some point. At least they got Coker there. Who's doing it? But Bryce Young here in the 7th in a super flex, I'll take it.
It's good value. Yeah, like you're locking him in. She showed that progression step forward. If you want to play the risk game, like you talked about, like Anthony Richardson is the risk reward game because if he figures it out, he's working. Like I think he's a really good QB3 to target this season for teams. Like if you're doing dynasty startups, take the upside shot on Anthony Richardson if you have 2 quarterbacks because he's the guy that kind of offsets Bryce Young. Like what you're getting out of Bryce Young. The ceiling might be a little bit capped, but he's going to give you the production. I have no qualms with that. I think that really sets up your roster well. I think with your roster, because it's so young, but you have Lamar, so it's like weird. I almost want to think you're a contender, but like you got a hella young team. Like I don't think anybody. I think Cook's your oldest starter. He's 25. Yeah, like you have nobody under 25 or above 25, so you kind of set yourself up well with that. And Bryce Young fits a little bit better. I think the Caleb Johnson pick there's interesting. There's a big split in the community on him and where he's at, just because if you watch this tape, he's running through mountain holes that anyone can go through.
Yep.
His explosive rate. There's like issues with his profile. I'll say it's interesting. The Godwin pick terrifies me, particularly due to the injury, because you're taking him above these rookie wide receivers who are really good. And that's the one where I'm like, those picks really concern me because they could backfire on you significantly. So I get it. Caleb Johnson, if you like him, if you think he's going to get the draft capital for sure. I would just go other ways personally.
Juicy J is killing us with 4 quarterbacks. He's killing his own team with 4 quarterbacks. But I think that might just be a result of the queue that he set. We'll see if he comes back in here. As you decide on your pick, Jesse, we'll just go through the last couple of rounds. So we had McCaffrey, Cook, Jacobs at the end of the 6th, Zay, Bryce, Caleb Johnson, Godwin, Igbuka, Burden, as you mentioned, Sam Laporte at the 707, tight end 3. That's great value there. DJ Moore, I love the value on Moore, and Cam Ward, if he didn't already have 3 quarterbacks, would have been good. You also see in the middle of the 6th round all of those wide receivers. But Jesse, you got 10 seconds, so why don't you make your pick, and then you can tell us about it.
All right, if I can find him. Oh, he's just gone, I guess. Okay, well, they were probably going to sign out here. I'll screw it. I guess we will just take. Oh, no, we timed out. All right, I'll take Hampton, whatever. I will just. Oh, I just double tapped. All right, cool. Andrews did not mean to take that. So we just fucked that up completely, but it is fine. We will go with it. I was highlighting the rookie tight ends, the 2 who are particularly intriguing, Harold Fannin and Tyler Warren. Those were the 2 tight ends like I was targeting because, like, with these tight ends, like Kincaid's had about as bad as a season as you could get last year.
Yeah.
Laporta was fine, but he's disappointing. Andrews was up and down. I think Andrews is more the contender pick, so I'm fine with Andrews at that spot. Yeah, like it worked out, but I screwed that one up quite a bit from what I was trying to do. So, Jamie, there is another Henderson. There's a Henderson that plays for the Bengals right now as a safety. There's also I've seen something about that where there's another Henderson. I don't know. He's another like rookie coming in. I don't know where he's from. But I've seen another name of a Henderson. So I tried searching on Sweeper. I couldn't find him. So I wish I had more information on that.
Yeah. I don't know at all, but I do know that Trevion Henderson is the Henderson that you want. So be careful there. I'm struggling, Jesse, because at wide receiver, there's still a ton of great value. I know we're in a 10-man, but we got DK Metcalf here, but I already have JSN. We have Devonta Adams if you wanted to kind of get 1 year there. Mike Evans, same deal, maybe even Diggs. Terry McLaurin is still here, sitting around for no good reason. Wide receiver 6 on the season, I believe, this year. And we know he's got the quarterback and offense in place. Maybe somebody comes in. Jameson Williams, also interesting. Maybe somebody comes in here and takes it away from him. But if I'm looking at these rookies, other than Loveland, Trey Harris in year 1 or Terry McLaurin for that production, I think I prefer Terry McLaurin, even though I understand why you might go the other way. But Judkins is also there. I'm going to risk it. I'm going to go ahead and lock in McLaurin over these guys. That way I feel more secure in my wide receiver room. And then I can pivot everywhere else if I want to get QB3 right away, if I want to, but I'm probably going to look at a rookie and Judkins if he's there.
Yeah, I think with these rookie running backs, it starts getting like really just like giant tiers of guys because you get Raheem Sanders, you get Jaden Blue, you keep going down. People like Jarquez Hunter, like these guys all like, and everyone's favorite sleeper who I've seen nonstop is RJ Harvey. But like when you're taking these guys, you better be damn sure they're getting draft capital. I will just say because we're getting to the point in the rookie running backs where these picks could just absolutely just tank your season from drafting them, as opposed to taking like I mean I'm a Pickens guy, but like Pickens, McLaurin, Derrick Henry, these guys we know are going to be productive this year.
Yep.
So you kind of have to figure out your team build and where you're at. And like you said, you give yourself a little bit more production with the McLaurin, right? Now he is entering his age 30 season. It will be hard to resell him. Is like kind of like it's with Mike Evans. If anybody's had Mike Evans roster the last few years, he's incredibly hard to resell, but he's far more productive for your team than he is a trademark. So if you're fine with that, yeah, just take him.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm good with it. And if I'm looking at the board, other than Tank Dell, who knows when or if he's going to play again, other than Jaden Reed, who knows when or if he's going to play well again. The usage is very strange there.
Right.
Who else are we talking about the wide receiver position? There aren't a ton of names outside of JMO. So I'm going to Judy as well. Those are the guys who are left. Shakir, those are the guys who were there for you. So I'm done there. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at these rookies and I'm going to I want to go Loveland, kind of lock it in. But because this is not a tight end premium, we got Ollie Gordon or we got Judkins. I'm going to go ahead and take Judkins and just, roll the dice on what I hope will be continued success at running back. I mean, but like you said, it's going to be landing spot dependent, but I need a running back. So here we go.
Yeah, he's going to be a day 2 guy. Like he'll get the draft capital. like what I was talking about is you get a little further down, those guys are far from guaranteed draft capital. We know Judkins is draft capital. Like he has the cachet, he's got the pedigree, he's got kind of all you're looking for. There are a few like question marks with this profile, a few things that are kind of iffy, but like if he gets the right situation, he gets the touches, like he's going to be productive because that's all that matters at running back. We see Kyron Williams do this year in, year out. As long as he's running back, stay touches, I don't care, man. And it's such a short window for them anyways. I think we often, excuse me, we overinflate these rookies like long-term value at running back, and it's not the case. It's really hard to get second round backs.
Yeah. I agree with you. Here in the 9th round with Dylan Sampson, that is just 20 and Pacheco 21 running backs off the board by the 9th round. It's just a 10-man team, 10-man league, of course, so that affects things a little bit, but you can understand how crazy people are at wide receiver, and you still got value with Michael Pittman going off the board. What are you thinking in terms of Isaiah Pacheco? I love the value on Pacheco, but what the hell's going on with him, and is he going to return to form next year?
There's a ton of risk with Pacheco. So my thesis or my strategy in offseason is these day three running backs. If they're not like super efficient or have the stuff to kind of hold up for them, even if they are efficient, this gets into the Tajay Spears last year. This one burned me immensely because they don't have that draft capital holding them to the team. They switch head coaches, things happen. Like with Pacheco, it seems like he's fallen out of favor post injury. Like they trust Kareem Hunt more, which like if anybody watched Kareem Hunt play, he's the most boring 3-4 yards per carry plotter of all time. Yeah. He consistently has a good success rate, and that works for Kansas City. That's why they like him. But yeah, man, like with Pacheco, there's definitely question marks of probably not going to get brought back, or if he's brought back, it's going to be on cheap deal. Where's he? Because this is quite possibly from last year to this year the worst running back like free agent contract class we've seen in a long time. So we'll see. And they took all my old wide receivers, you bastards.
They were coming.
Yeah, I know. I knew they were coming.
Oh man. So yeah, let's talk about that as you have a look. So we had at the end of the 8th, Pickens, McLaurin, Metcalf, Tua on the turn. I love that as a QB3. Why not take the upside shot? Because when he plays and when that team is right, he has the ability to go off. And then the 9th round is Judkins, as we talked about. Dylan Sampson, for me, the jury's still out. You got Isaiah Pacheco and then Pittman, Reed, Hill, and Evans. Really nice value there on those older tight end or wide receivers rather, who have one season of elite production left, most likely. But yeah, I think you probably got to stay young. You got the old guys to produce, but you got Jamison Williams and probably rookies, unless you want to go and double tap tight end. What are you looking at here as Cam Scatterbo goes off the board? Someone's going to do it, Jesse. Someone's going to do it, and Juicy J did it.
My team is incredibly young outside of Andrews. Like, this is a really, really young build. Like, I don't think I have a starter, like a legit starter, besides Murray. Like, he's the one guy that's over 23, 24. I think Brees might be the oldest. So what I'm going to do is like kind of lean into the variance. I'm going to take Anthony Richardson here. We'll just see how it goes and shakes out. Nice. It could face plant. I don't care. My team's probably not going to win. But on the flip side, there is one of my favorite players. You know who I'm talking about. Devontae Adams. If we're talking about production for a year, I'm just going to take him because it looks like Aaron Rodgers coming back to New York. And if they're staying in New York, my boys, Devontae Adams was a beast with the New York Jets. He was on pace for like 170 targets with them. Like, it was a really good season. So I'm just going to lock up the wide receiver room with Devontae Adams. Now, you could play this out with the rookies, right? Like, there's Trey Harris, there's Tez Johnson, Evan Stewart, Matthew Golden. But, like, the draft capital of these guys is all over the place. I think Devin Neal's a really good pick. But we're in the range of rookies of, like, you don't know how this is going to go for a lot of these guys. So you have to be able to take risks. It's just, you want the old risk with that production, David Montgomery, or the young guys like we talk about with Neal, Golden. We don't know how they're going to get drafted, Travis Etienne, same type of stuff. So where are you kind of leaning into your next pick? Are you going to take another shot on a young running back, or are you going to go for the producer like Mr. Joe Mixon in your face, or what are you kind of thinking?
Yeah, I got Mixon and Kamara staring me in the face. But then you also have guys like Tajay Spears, who we saw come on, Jaylen Warren, who has a shot at RB2 production. And then, of course, like a Zach Charbonnet or guys we know are good and are one step away. Brian Robinson is also still hanging around. Ridiculous that he is available with his youth, I think. But I'm going to go another direction. I got my 2 running backs. I'll probably pick one up at the end. But I'm going to do something here that's Jesse, I cannot be stopped. Rookie wide receivers be damned. We got two options. We got Jameson Williams and we got Jerry Jeudy. I don't know what the hell they are doing in Cleveland, but with Jameson off the board, I mean, Jeudy just seems like an obvious value.
Yeah, there's another older wide receiver here pounding the table for you who you get on the turn. I think you know what you're talking about. But yeah, Jeudy, I think he was the only 1,000-yard wide receiver in the NFL who's valued outside the top 30 dynasty wide receivers. It didn't make any sense. Jeudy was awesome this year, man. He took that step forward. So another guy that has the cachet. People always like Jeudy, right? So when he starts producing on top of it, he's going to rise in value. Like, I don't think Jeudy should be going this late. He should be going in the Godwin, the Aguka, the John Smith range. So I think it's really good value. And of course, you just got to take it right in front of you. So,
yeah.
You know how that goes.
Yeah. And so I assume the guy you're talking about is Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton is there available, and he's been a stud. But I don't know if I can go that way at this point. This sucks. We got a couple of good options, though, at tight end, especially. I'm really tempted to take my second tight end. I don't think I'm going to do it because I really want a running back, but I think I might also kind of upset the draft if I do. We got Harold Fannin, who's a really interesting option, but it's going to be Colston Loveland for me. Yeah. I don't see a way that Chuba was far too far down the board.
Tyrone, bang.
And we lost him. But yeah, Colston Loveland, I don't see a way that Jim Harbaugh and company pass him up at 21, 22 if he's there. And he's just such an amazing fit, with a team that desperately needs more pass catchers in the Chargers. So I really love him for that situation. If he can get there, I think he can. And then here, I really want my QB3, but it's like Derek Carr, Russell Wilson, or bust. I'm gonna take Sam Darnold. Sammy Ballgame. He's gonna be a starter. He's gonna be a starter next year. I don't know where it is, but at this stage in the draft, that's what I want. I want guys who start in NFL teams. He could go somewhere and supplant someone like a Derek Carr, depending on who becomes the Saints head coach. So there's options here for him, but he's going to get money if he, regardless of whether he stays in Minnesota or not, and he's going to be a starter next year.
Yeah, like that's the thing. It might not be a great spot, but he's going to be a starting. By the way, like David Njoku is a tight end 4 in points per game, and it's like people don't even fucking care. Like he doesn't even get brought up in here. And I'm like, it was tight end 4 points per game. He outscored Hawkinson. He outside Ferguson. Like, and like you could tell that guy doesn't have a tight end, so he's like, all right, I got to draft one, so I'm drafting Ferguson, right? At that point in the draft, that's where I would go if you liked a rookie tight end. I'm not taking George. I would take George Kittle above him, but like, go grab the rookie tight end, right? Because the insulation's there. Obviously, if they don't get the draft capital, that's the whole interesting part about it, right? So you want to risk it. I get it with Ferguson, but he feels like a guy I think has one more season before he probably gets replaced. I don't know. He's 26. His contract's a little bit longer. I think it's 2 years. But yeah, you kind of it's more you're taking the floor than anything else at tight end. That's just incredibly boring. Because like, would you rather just go Ferguson or like Kelsey? Like Kelsey did it again, so it's just like screw it. I'll just go Kelsey. All right. So speaking of tight ends, I think because this is a mock draft show, I'm going to take Fannin here because I don't know if he's going to be my tight end one, but he's going to be damn close to being my tight end one. He had the greatest tight end season of all time. Like production-wise, the last 2 years have been absurd. He's a freak with the ball in his hands. He's big. He checks a lot of boxes. So I don't know why he consistently falls third of these tight ends. I think it's probably because people view him as like a pass-catching tight end, but I'm like, bro, I will run the Kyle Pitts experiment back again, even though he's there right there, right? I'm not afraid to get burned once again. So I'm looking at the players available. There's a lot of good old players. I get it. The resale value on Alvin Kamara is awful, but like he's locked into a fat contract. He's not going anywhere. They have guys that they've tried to bring in. They cannot replace him. He's probably another 200 touches. So the Mixon stuff's a little interesting just because they're bringing in a new OC. I don't know how that's going to impact Mixon. Kamara's still a really good pass catcher. So I think if I'm going productive, like veteran running back, I'll just take Kamara here and just live with it. 12th.
Yep, I love that, especially in the 12th round. Like you said, you're getting 1 year, potentially 2 years if he can stay healthy. It's not a great team, but if Derek Carr can stay healthy, or they can get similar production from someone else who is not in the building at this point,
100%.
other than Derek Carr. Then Alvin Kamara will just slot right into a mid to back end RB2 with that floor weekly for you, because he's going to get that production, and then he'll have his boom weeks where he can come a mid to back end RB1, unless of course he just goes off and scores 3 touchdowns a couple times a game. It depends what the hell's going on. What's interesting is that Dennis Allen is not there, right? And it's going to be a new cool, a whole new team, whole new scheme. So how does Kamara fit into that? I don't know, but they're certainly going to use him. Are they going to use Taysom Hill? I don't know. Taysom Hill it continues to piss me off for fantasy.
He's the guy that just does it. Yeah, they still haven't picked a head coach, right? So they're still trying to figure out who their head coach is going to be. We'll see who it ends up being. Like I don't think they're going with Darren Rizzi again, even though he liked a couple of the guys we like. I will shout out the guy who got injured, who was really good this year, besides Chris Olave. And why am I blanking on his name? The other wide receiver they have.
Rashid Shaheed.
Yeah, Rashid Shaheed. I think he's a really good value to draft because that team is kind of stuck with what they have. He has a really good chance to be a really good productive player. But look at Ryan got Mixon in the 12th. You can't go wrong taking this production that you get from Joe Mixon in the 12th. Like, you know what you're going to get. It's just, this is why getting the young players and then insulating with the veteran players is such a good way to go for teams.
Yeah.
Because
and speaking of veterans, we have a few veterans like Najee goes, okay, he might have a role, but here are the veterans still on the board who I think can produce in some fashion. I don't know if they'll remain on their team or free agency or what, but we got Ramondre Stevenson, Rashad White, who was productive on high efficiency, even as Bucky took over. We got Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. We got Aaron Jones. We got James Conner out there. And the guy who I am going to take, if Austin Eckler's still out there as well, he might have a season left. But the guy I'm going to take is Eckler's teammate. It's going to be Brian Robinson if he comes to me. Yeah. I just think look, he's buried in these rankings, but he's not buried like the other guys are buried. He's just naturally buried for no good reason. Brian Robinson at the beginning of the season was looking great. Obviously, Jaden Daniels took over. There was injury for Robinson. Eckler got healthier, but they were also mixing in McNichols in some odd formations and stuff. So for me, it's Brian Robinson as Damian Martinez goes off the board. But in this range, as an RB3, I think Robinson makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I think him and Ramondre are similar bets. I get it with Ramondre. It was that the offense was all over the place and it was not great, but it's kind of a similar bet you're making. It's just with Jaden Daniels, the offense is better. We're hoping we get that from Drake May. We already have it with Jaden Daniels. We don't have to project it, right? So yeah, it's just a safer pick. So yeah, I'm 100% with you. He can be a solid RB2 like most weeks for you.
Yep. And we finished it off with David Njoku. So there you see the end of the draft. We're going to go through briefly and we'll take a look at who wasn't drafted in 12 rounds of 10-man. So after pick 120, Kelsey, Pitts, Deebo Samuel, no real surprise. Cooper Kupp, no real surprise given how things ended up here. I would say Evan Ingram is not a top, 14 tight end here. That's a little interesting, especially with Liam Cohen going over there. I think Evan Ingram deserves a bit more love. Pollard, as we mentioned, Aaron Jones, Pearsall is an interesting name. Jalen Warren. Are there any names? Cole Kmet in a Ben Johnson offense. I don't think he produces like crazy year one, but I think he's a really good bet to make in Dynasty. What are you thinking about some of these names and who was left out?
Yeah, the ADP is really weird, right? Because James Conner is well down there, and you're talking about similar to Alvin Kamara and those guys, right? Like people at this point, this is like the worst time for veterans because of where we're at in the draft process. Everybody's hyped up the rookies, so we're taking a lot of these bets on rookies and living there. But yeah, like even Calvin Ridley's probably gonna have another productive year in Jacksonville. Like you can talk yourself in a lot of these guys. Keenan Allen was productive, like wherever he ends up, who knows? But you still so. There's a ton of these guys in this range who have fallen. Maybe Ben Sinnott, people hop on that train in year 2 because Zach Ertz finally dies and that tight end can take over. We'll see. But yeah, like Josh Downs, like why is Josh Downs not getting drafted? Like I should completely miss Josh Downs. I'm gonna be honest. He should 100% get drafted like well earlier than this. So you'll see guys fall through the cracks, right? Yeah, like this. I mean, if somebody's desperate for DeAndre Hopkins or Gus Edwards, I guess, sure. But
Shakir.
when we start getting the Derek Carr range, it's like, okay, QJ maybe, Jatavian Sanders, like it's and my boy Jacoby just buried. People hate Jacoby. Stop hating on him. He's a good one.
They do really.
Oh, there's
hate him.
Dobbins. I didn't even see
AK,
Dobbins.
AK, and
Yeah, like
Shaheed.
there's
Those guys should have gone.
I really need to use my implement my rankings into these drafts because when it does not happen, I miss guys consistently. I'm like, oh wait, he's there, son of a biscuit.
Why don't you talk a little bit about your team and how things shook out? And I'm going to throw yours up here. How are you feeling going into the season with this group of starters? We got A-Rich, Fannin, and Kamara on the bench. But how do you feel about your starters and where you would go?
Yeah, so I'm going to be going in the season starting Brees and Alvin Kamara. I'm going to see what happens with Henderson early in the year because I don't expect it. Same thing with Amari and Hampton. So, if I had this team built out, most of the rookies are basically done. What I would try to insulate it with is veteran producers to try to make it work. So we talked about Jacoby. We talked about a couple other guys, James Conner. Really cheap veterans I could buy to see if that's potentially I can go with. Or I could just round this out. So by doing this type of build, I like to kind of give myself a little bit of both. I know Puka. I know Neighbors. Pretty safe with Andrews. That assumption they're all going to be producers. Same thing with Kyler Murray. JJ McCarthy's the risky. So it's really you give yourself a base and see where it goes. Overall, if I wish I did not get Andrews because that would shift my build and how I would have gone it. Because I would have got Kittle a little bit later and I would have gone a little bit differently. But overall, this is a fine build. It's just it could be. I feel like this team can go any which way. There's so many ways this team could end up looking at this team next year. I could be the 112 or I could be the one. I could it's gonna be really hard for this team to be the top contender because a couple of these teams, but yeah, there's a lot of ways this team build could go for me.
Yeah, I think I'm always trying to go year 2. I'm trying to build youth that can ascend. And I think this is more of a year 2 team. I don't know what's going to go on with Andrews, but maybe you get a deal for him and Fannin steps in right away, which is absolutely possible depending where he lands and how he's used. And then Hampton and Trevion Henderson, I mean, those are just good bets to make if you're making those bets at running back and proven production, like you said, in Kamara and Devonta Adams. So really like that one.
We sell Adams, we sell Kamara. Yeah, that's probably what this team will do.
Yeah, and potentially Kyler. This is my team here, so I am happy with how this looks. I'm happy with Brian Robinson as my RB3. Sam Darnold at the value, I don't mind it. I think he's a starter. And Loveland and McBride, I feel like I can flex Loveland. Bryce Young, I don't know if he's going to give me that back end QB1 production. I'm hoping he can, but in a 10-man, I don't know. But potentially Loveland could play in year 1 if I need him to, but I feel very comfortable with my starters locked in. I just need to hope that quarterback between Young and Darnold figure it out and can give me weeks where I can ascend. But yeah, I'm happy with the youth. I'm happy with my wide receiver stable. And even though I didn't get some of those high-end wide receiver rookies, I was happy with the running back in Quinshawn Junkins that I was able to grab and Loveland. So I feel comfortable. Let's look at some of these other teams real quick. And actually, I think we'll just do this view here. So let's see. All right. P. Serio has Josh Allen, Herbert, Wilson, T. Higgins, Olave. So I really enjoyed this team. Zay Flowers, I think, is a good value, as is DK Metcalf. And you got Chuba and Tyrone Tracy. So I think this team is probably one of the favorites. The problem is David Njoku. We'll see if that happens. But I really do love that team. Jesse, is there a team that stands out to you?
I really like how they went about that build because they waited on running back, right? And they got the productive veterans. We expect Hubbard, we expect to do that. I think that's a really good job of doing it. I think the Bryce Miller team is interesting. Yes. He's got a ton of productive wide receivers. He's going to need Godwin to step forward and Ayuk. So there's a little bit of risk built in with this team. I would have hoped he would have insulated it without 2 guys coming off injury. Yep. But you get Henry if Pacheco comes back, and he's got Kittle. So this is a good team. I don't know what he's doing for QB2. Maybe he's just going to pay for somebody off of that. So there's risk with that team, but that's just a really fun build of where they went. And then obviously a team that punted quarterback and still ended up with Baker and Dak is a really good bet because they insulated with Monty. And that's the key thing right there. If Monty is as productive as we expect, which he probably is going to be that guy again, you have a really good wide receiver room. You have these quarterbacks who we've seen Baker, we've seen Dak do it. If they both hit this year, this team could be a problem. I like that strategy of going that route, going differently from everybody else because it opens you up to different possibilities.
I agree. Right next to him, I like Mike's team. Justin Jefferson and Bijan to kind of start it off and anchor the
Mhm.
squad. Then you got Caleb and Trevor, quarterbacks who should be on the ascent, given what has
Yeah.
happened just in the last week with the head coaches that were signed by their teams, and then Saquon Barkley, Bucky Irving, and then Moore and Evans. So really have stacked it up at the back end. Cortland Sutton, even you have that flex production kind of locked in, assuming those guys can stay healthy. And your starters are fantastic. You're taking a bit of a risk at quarterback, but that's a risk I'm willing to take because the risk
Mhm.
is on uh, talented youth at the
Right.
position. So I do like that. Um, what do you think about Juicy J here, Jesse?
I mean, just hoarding all of the quarterbacks. So I'm expecting their plan for them is to try to sell these quarterbacks.
Yeah.
The problem in 10 team is
Yeah.
you're going to need teams to suffer an injury because there's so many quarterbacks available in 10 team. People can, like Geno Smiths of the world, like I don't even know if he got drafted. Like you could find those guys for dirt cheap and plug and play those guys, right? So this strategy works better in deeper leagues when it's shorter leagues like this. Because is anyone really going to pay up for? I mean, obviously it's Cam Orange Sanders, like they should have that draft capital. It's possible, right? But you need one of those guys to step forward for someone to pay for them. Yeah, I think they're just playing value. I don't think they expect to win this the first year. But it started out with GNT, Bowers, and McMillan. It's just a lot of fun, right? So you're holding value. I don't think because like even with the best rookies, it's really hard for them to be difference makers. Bowers is the exception, right? McMillan's probably what if he gets 800 yards, we call it whatever. So this year, this team's looking like year 2 or year 3 with that. Well, kind of what they have. I think it's a fun build, but yeah, that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. The problem with that strategy, as you were referencing, is that even in 12 man, people are reluctant to buy quarterbacks because the price is so steep. It's not like you can just easily move these guys. In a 10 man, that becomes incredibly hard, much harder. I know you're stacking the value, but you're also taking on the risk of the rookies, even Penix. Stroud and Stroud and Nix aren't safe. We saw what happened with Stroud. That could very well happen to Bo Nix next season. I don't believe that's the case, but none of these guys are safe options. It's not like you grab like Burrow and Hurts and Baker and Purdy. Like you didn't grab safety, you just grabbed a lot of upside. If some of these guys don't work out, sure you can throw them out and have 2 starting quarterbacks, but the value that you are losing out on in not drafting an Xavier Worthy or Devonta Smith, and taking your third quarterback instead is just not ideal, I think.
Yeah, that's the opportunity cost you go when you don't take quarterback the first 3 rounds. Like you take skill position players, right? But when you're doing the value game with these guys, if you're building for the 2026, this is probably the way you want to go about doing it. The 101 in 2026, you take the super young guys, you don't worry about production, and then you take just like quarterbacks because they hold value. And because like you look at a starting lineup, it's Scatabo, Bond, Gordon, like all these guys are starting for this team, so they're going to get absolutely dump trucked by a couple of these other teams.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, if like that's your strategy, it makes sense. It's just you're playing this out for year 2 and most likely year 3, where you gain value in trades, you implement it, you go that process, and that's how you truly build a dynasty. Like where you get these elite dynasty teams in year 4, year 5. It's just you have to hit right. So as long as you're willing to accept that risk, man, it can. The upside of that type of build is like higher than everywhere else, unless you could just make really good trades outside of that.
Yeah. But yeah, you do have to trust yourself in the trade market. Let's run through the rest of these teams quickly. Let's talk about Spencer from the 3 hole. We talked about Jaden Daniels at the 103, could have been 101. Nico, Drake London, Brock Purdy, Travis Hunter, if he's a wide receiver, excellent value. Pickens, Judy. And then the running backs you see with TJ Hawkinson. I really like that team. I think they can produce. There's some risk, but they're contending year 1 for sure, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the McCaffrey bet. Like, that's the bet you want to make in that range because his upside, theoretically, because we're starting to get to that age range with him where he's, 29? He's about to be 29. His upside still seems like it's higher than basically ever running back in fantasy. I don't know if that's the case or not, but, like, you're making that bet to kind of go with some of the youth you took on with Hunter. The Purdy one's a little interesting just because it's hard for me to see Purdy being a truly difference-making quarterback. Yep. But, like, taking him over Mayfield in a situation or Bo Nix, like it kind of shifts your value a little bit that way. But yeah, you know what you're getting out of Purdy. It's more safety than anything else. Because then it's like we get past McCaffrey, it's Johnson, Pickens, Sampson. There's a lot of upside bets here in this range. And if those pan out for you, then it's looking really good. It's kind of risky is the way I'll phrase this build. So as long as you're okay accepting the risk, then yeah, I like it.
Yeah, something, and I'm not going to spend any time on it here, but something I want to dig into in the offseason is, we heard all season long, well, too high safety, all these defenses are running it. But it did seem like some of the more innovative play callers like McVay, like the Shanahan, and some of these other guys were able to get around it, but you saw production suffer from guys like Brock
Mhm.
Purdy as a result of that. So, even Matthew Stafford wasn't the guy that he was. Puka got there, but you saw Cooper Kupp completely neutralized. You moved more to a run game. So it's interesting to see. You have to think about these. Another good example is Miami and what Mike McDaniel was doing, Devon Chant. So and Jonnu Smith. So you have to think about how defenses are
Mhm.
going to adjust and what the offenses are going to do as a result. And it's going to affect these guys in fantasy.
Yeah.
Let's move on quickly to a couple of these. So Bryce with Patrick Mahomes, we talked about him kicking it at the 105. You got Burrow, Love, and Goff. Love the quarterbacks. You got JT, Kenneth Walker, ETN, and Najee at value. And then
Mhm.
your wide receivers aren't super strong. I don't love Jake Ferguson, but this team is ready to compete, I'd say.
Yeah. It's the Love's the one that kind of makes or breaks that build for you, right?
Yeah.
But you have Goff, so you could just plug those guys in. I think they're actually very similar bets between Goff and Love. It's just the value difference is ginormous between the two of these guys because what was that, 5 rounds? So yeah, JT does his thing. Walker comes back a year 2, stays healthy. He looked like he was a really good running back. So you have that. Then you get Juku stepping into that PPR role. Pittman comes back from injury. You just have to be careful when you kind of keep talking yourself into more and more bets that need to go right for your team. That's the
Yeah,
only
it's
thing that
true.
worries me, right? Where you're like, this needs to happen, this needs to happen, this needs to happen, right? So it could happen. I'm intrigued to see it, but yeah, you know what you're getting out of these guys. It's more safety than anything else with those quarterbacks. So really strong quarterback room. Those running backs come around, and like ETN and Najee land in the right situation, then you got a nice running back room, and it rounds out.
Yep. Ryan Pros at 106. Jalen Hurts and Drake May. Love that with Gibbs, Chase
Mm-hmm.
Brown. And then the wide receivers you see here with Joe Mixon at the end and Tyler Warren. This team should be good if Warren can really come into his own quickly. I like this team's chances. What do you think?
Yeah, it's good because you get Mixon at the end. Like that's just
Yeah,
easy production to value. This wide receiver range like is really intriguing to me. There's a ton of ways it could go. If it hits for you, this kind of puts that build over the top. So like, that's what it comes down to. Harris, Golden, and Reed. Can those guys all step forward in year 1 or year
right.
like I think Reed's in year 3 now? Like then it works out for you. Yeah, it could be a lot of fun.
And the last one who we didn't totally talk about, but we talked a little bit about Jamar CD, Achan, Adunze. We got the 2 quarterbacks that you referenced. I
Mhm.
think this team is probably the front runner with David Montgomery and Tyreek Hill late. What do you think?
Yeah, that's the fun build because they waited like we talked about, and they got 2 really productive quarterbacks. Baker's probably going to regress on touchdowns, but he's still going to be good, so it's not really a big deal. And then you have difference makers at all the other positions. Like you're getting Tyreek in basically the 10th round, which is crazy value to get Tyreek,
Crazy.
right? So if he comes back and if he looks anything close to what he's been, then yeah, like this team, that's how you build a force. Like that's playing the game the right way. When everyone else chases quarterback, you get the difference makers. Then you like insulate with quarterbacks. Like that's how you win. Man.
That's it. Totally agree. Well, Jesse, thanks for joining me. We are over an hour, so we need to jump out. We do have a couple of comments. That was Jamie in there. So we did get to those. We appreciate all of you guys for watching us. We are Just the Ranks. We are pretty new just this month in January, starting things up. We are running mock drafts weekly for this month and through next month. And then we are going to ramp up our mocks. We're going to post them on YouTube. We're posting shorts on YouTube and TikTok as well. And we are on Twitter at Adjust the Ranks. So please like and subscribe, get in on the mocks, and we can even, we're going to break it down. So you get a free breakdown of your mock from us as well if you're watching the show. So that could be interesting. Jesse, any final thoughts or anything you're thinking right now about the season or the playoffs or what's happening?
I got nothing to pretty tapped out right now. But I will say, make sure if you guys are watching the channel, you subscribe to the channel Just the Ranks. Jeremy's going to do a lot of fun stuff going out. So I'm excited to see what he has progressing as we move into the offseason. It's going to be a lot of fun for yourself and us.
Appreciate it, man. I'm going to now play my outro that needs to be changed, but hey, whatever. Here we go. We're starting things off. We're figuring it out. So appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching another video from Adjust the Ranks. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all these platforms for ranks, mocks, and more. And we will see you next time.